Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Attava Deva Mayaya Nunam Gatir Agochara Chetaso Vachasash Chapi Bhutanam Iti Nishchayah Atadeva Mayaya Nunam Gatir Agochara Chetaso Chetaso Vachasas Chapi Bhutanam Iti Nishchayah Attava Deva Mayaya Nunam gatir agochara. Chetaso vachasashchapi. Bhutanam iti nishchayaha. Attava deva mayaya. Nunam gatir agochara. Chetaso vachasashchapi. Bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Atava deva mayaya.
Attava deva mayaya.
Nunam gatira gochara.
Nunam gatir agochara.
Chitaso vachasashchapi.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Bhutanam iti nischaya.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Atava deva mayaya. Nunam gatira gochara.
Nunam gatir agochara.
Chitaso vachasashchapi.
Shapi.
Bhutanam iti nischaya.
Bhutanam iti. The volume on the box by the aux cord needs to be turned up so that way Maharaj can speak, where those two chords are.
Attava deva mayaya.
Attava deva mayaya.
Nunam gatira gochara.
Nunam gatir agochara.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Chetaso vatasashchapi.
Bhutanam iti nischaya.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Attava deva mayaya.
Attava deva mayaya.
Nunam gatir agochara.
Nunam gatir agochara.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Attava deva mayaya.
Attava deva mayaya.
Nunam chara.
Nunam gatir agochara.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Chetaso vatasashchapi.
Bhutanam iti nischaya.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha. Anybody on Zoom?
Attava deva mayaya.
Attava deva mayaya.
Nunam gatira gocharaha.
Nunam gatir agochara.
Chetasyo vashashaschapi.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha. Attava. Alternatively, Deva, the Lord. Mayayaha, energies. Nunam, very little. Gati, movement. Agochara, inconceivable. Chetasaha, either by the mind. Vachasaha, by words. Cha, or. Api, also. Bhutanam, of all living beings. Iti, thus. Nishchayaha, included.
I think Maharaj wants to I think Maharaj wants to chant.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. Okay, Maharaj.
Attava deva mayaya.
Attava deva mayaya.
Nunam gatira gochara.
Nunam gatira gochara.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Chetaso vachasashchapi.
Bhutanam iti nischyaha.
Bhutanam iti nishchayaha.
Atava Deva Mayaya
Atava Devamayaya
Nunam Gatir Agochara
Nunam Gatir Agochara
Chetaso Vachasaschapi
Chetaso Vachasaschapi
Bhutanam Iti Nishyayaha
Bhutanam Iti Nishchayaha.
Yayaha.
Thus it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. Purport. A question may be raised as to why a devotee should refrain from identifying an actor, although he knows definitely that the Lord is the ultimate doer of everything. Knowing the ultimate doer, one should not pose himself as ignorant of the actual performer. To answer this doubt, the reply is that the Lord is also not directly responsible, for everything is done by his deputed Maya Shakti, or material energy. The material energy is always provoking doubts about the supreme authority of the Lord. The personality of religion knew perfectly well that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, and still he was put into doubts by the deluding energy, and thus he refrained from mentioning the supreme cause. This doubtfulness was due to the contamination of both Kali and the material energy. The whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the deluding energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri-Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Virjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jigatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thus it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. Did everyone understand this question that the devotee may have in the first two sentences? Prabhupada was saying, a question may be raised as to why a devotee should refrain from identifying an actor, although he knows definitely that the Lord is the ultimate doer of everything. Knowing the ultimate doer, one should not pose himself as ignorant of the actual performer. So, does everyone understand that question? It was kind of confusing to me when I first read it. What about the previous verse? The king said, this is the previous verse, the king said, O you who are in the form of a bull, you know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to the principle that the distinction intended for the that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are no other than the personality of religion. So when I was reading the purport, I understood these first two sentences that he's wondering, Maharaj Parikshit is wondering why the devotee, the personality of religion, the bull, isn't identifying Krishna as the cause, as the main doer, right? So then Prabhupada goes on to say, to answer this doubt, the reply is that the Lord is also not directly responsible. So that's one reason that the personality of religion wasn't saying, okay, it happened, this is happening to me because of Krishna. So one reason is that Krishna is not directly responsible, for everything is done by his deputed Maya Shakti, or material energy. And here we have this verse in the Bhagavad Gita that answers that goes along with this sentence that Srila Prabhupada is saying. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sa charataram hetunanena konteya jagad viparivartate. So this is one of the answers to why a devotee wouldn't first say, oh, it was Krishna's fault, he's the cause of it. Here's one of the reasons. Because this material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So that was one reason, that Krishna is in charge of everything, but the Maya Shakti, or the material energy, is the one that's carrying things out. Maya is deputed by Krishna to make all the arrangements in this material world. And the purport explains this a little more. It is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the supreme will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is being conducted by material nature. Krishna also states in Bhagavad Gita that all of the living entities in different forms and species, I am the Father. The Father gives seeds to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in their different forms and species, according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with this material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. So nothing happens in the whole creation without the sanction of the Lord. He's the superintendent of all of the material energy, but Maya Devi, or the person deputed to oversee all of the material energy, she's the material Shakti, the material energy, that's what's carrying out everything in the material world. So one could say that Krishna is not directly responsible for all of the activities in the material world, but ultimately he's the sanctioner at the top of it all. Like we were seeing in that purport, there were a lot of explanations of how Krishna is not directly involved. So that could be one reason for the bowl not stating that Krishna is the ultimate cause of his suffering and his condition with the 3 broken legs. But then we see another reason that's also really important. So the material energy is always provoking doubts about the supreme authority of the Lord. The personality of religion knew very well that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. And still he was put into doubts by the deluding energy, and thus he refrained from mentioning the supreme cause. So now we're starting to see another reason. There is this doubtfulness.
Maharaj has a comment.
Okay, can you turn up the volume on the laptop?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another way of looking at this is that when it says that Krishna glances over the pradhan, or the unmanifest material energy, she becomes activated by his glance, Saikshita. However, we understand that this glance of the Lord is Sadashiva. So it's a form of the Lord as Shiva. He acts as the glance of the Lord and impregnates the material energy. In this way, Lord Krishna himself never touches material energy, but she is impregnated by another energy of his as Lord Shiva. Also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am seated as though neutral. I have nothing to do. Still, nothing can happen without me. So it is kind of inconceivable how the Lord, in one hand, is controlling everything. He's the supreme controller. On the other hand, he says he takes no responsibility because the living entities are acting on their own free will. And people do have a difficult time understanding how can the Lord give the living entities free will since he knows everything and he knows they'll misuse it. So why would he give it to them? So many things. But all in all, it's a perfect arrangement that Krishna has devised whereby the entities are given the free will to make their choices and they get the results in the material energy. And the Lord is glancing over the material energy, but he's using his aspect of Sadashiva to accomplish. And he's controlling material nature, but still she's acting as though independent. And this is one of the reasons why the philosophers and scientists become so bewildered. They say, how is there this nature? How could nature be under a person? It's so inconceivable. No person could control it, they think, because they can't understand God. And God cannot never be understood by one who doesn't engage in devotional service. Well, that's another peculiar thing. One may try to understand him. For thousands of years, even by studying the Vedas, but it doesn't work. It has to be the application of bhakti. The only process for understanding the Lord is bhakti amam abhijanati yavanyaschasmitata, through devotional service. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. So Krishna is aloof from the material creation, but he's also overseeing the whole thing, and he gives us free will. So the best thing to do with that free will is to engage in Krishna's service. That's pretty much the choice that the living entity has, is we can either engage in Krishna's service or we'll just be engaged in Maya's service. So either way, it's our eternal constitutional position is to be a servant. So we see that throughout the whole world. Everyone's trying to get some sort of happiness through service. That's just the natural function of the living entity. Someone thinks, okay, I'll serve my wife or my children or my friends or my neighborhood, community, country, nation, species. But that service is they're never getting the full satisfaction. But we see if we place that service to Krishna, then the living entity, we can become fully satisfied because Krishna is the source of everything. We have an eternal relationship with him. So when we go back to serving him instead of the material energy, then we become satisfied. So one of the other reasons that this personality of religion wasn't mentioning the Supreme Lord is because these doubts that arose from the deluding energy, and thus he refrained from mentioning the supreme cause. That we see here in the purport, this doubtfulness was due to the contamination of both Kali and the material energy. The whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the diluting energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. So the characteristics of the age of Kali we've been hearing about in this chapter. Austerity is diminished, cleanliness is gone, truthfulness is almost destroyed, and then was austerity and mercy. So mercy, austerity, and cleanliness are gone in the age of Kali, and truthfulness is this last leg that the bull's on. There's just a little bit of that left. And so this whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the diluting energy, Prabhupada says, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. So the age of Kali was causing this doubt in the personification of religion. So instead of him acknowledging that Krishna is the supreme cause, he has this doubt to actually mention the supreme cause, Krishna. So I've heard a few devotees speak on this in classes, and they always give really nice examples about this. So in the age of Kali, it influences people not to actually identify the supreme cause or Krishna as the cause of everything. So I've heard some examples, like when people want to maybe dress as a sadhu or try to give some sort of class or lecture or something, but then they don't want to say anything about Krishna. So that's due to the age of Kali. Or people might, even in ISKCON, people might go and give a talk somewhere, but then no Krishna, nothing about Krishna or devotional service. So this is due to the age of Kali. We do see maybe some people have some certain type of preaching methods, but when people are saying something that's deviating from the scriptures, and they don't actually want to speak about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can see this doubt is something that happens because of the age of Kali. So the symptoms of the age of Kali are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 12th canto. And they're very interesting. So we get a full view of the age of Kali. Maybe we could just read through some of the verses. So this is chapter 2 of the 12th canto, Symptoms of the Age of Kali. This chapter relates that when the bad qualities of the age of Kali will increase to an intolerable level, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will descend as Kalki to destroy those who are fixed in irreligion. After that, a new Satya Yuga will begin. As the age of Kali progresses, all good qualities of men diminish and all impure qualities increase. Atheistic systems of so-called religion become predominant, replacing the codes of Vedic law. The kings become just like highway bandits. The people in general become dedicated to low occupations. And all these social classes become just like Shudras. All cows become like goats. All spiritual hermitages become like materialistic homes. And family ties extend no further than the immediate relationship of marriage. When the age of Kali has almost ended, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will incarnate. He will appear in the village Shambhala and in the home of the exalted Brahmana Vishnu Yasha, and will take the name Kalki. He will mount his horse Devadatta, and taking his sword in hand will roam about the earth, killing millions of bandits in the guise of kings. Then the signs of the next Satya Yuga will begin to appear. When the moon, sun, and the planet Brihaspati enter simultaneously into one constellation and conjoin in the lunar mansion Pushya, Satya Yuga will begin. In the order of Satya, Treta, and Dwapara, and Kali, the cycle of 4 ages rotates in the society of living entities in this universe. The chapter ends with a brief description of the future dynasties of the sun and moon coming from Vaivashvata Manu in the next Satya Yuga. Even now, 2 saintly Kshatriyas are living who, at the end of this Kali Yuga, will reinitiate the pious dynasties of the sun god Vivashvan and the moon god Chandra. One of these kings is Devapi, a brother of Maharaj Shantanu, and the other is Maru, a descendant of Ikshvaku. They are biding their time incognito in a village named Kalapa. So that is the summary of the age of Kali. So here we're seeing what's happening at the very beginning of it, with someone, this imposter, beating the bull. He's posing himself as a king, but actually he's lower than a Shudra, and he's beating the personality of religion, and breaking these four pillars that it's standing on: the mercy, truthfulness, cleanliness, and austerity. And then here we see a whole overview of what the Kali Yuga is. So some of the symptoms are described more here by Shukadev Goswami. So Shukadev Goswami said, "Then, O king, religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory will all diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of the age of Kali. In Kali Yuga, wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth, proper behavior, and fine qualities, and law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's power." So we see this, that wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth, proper behavior, and fine qualities. So if somebody has a lot of money, then they say, he's a great guy. Like the Time magazine, they always have it in the grocery store and right at the front where you're leaving. And they have a person of the year. And so one of them, it has Elon Musk. He's some like millionaire or billionaire or whatever. So because he has a lot of money, they say, oh yeah, he's a great guy. Good birth, good behavior, fine qualities. But if we actually look at what he's doing, what is his good behavior? He goes on some show and smokes marijuana, and they say, oh, great guy, great behavior, because he's got a lot of money. Or, I mean, who knows what he does off of cameras? Fine qualities. How can you have fine qualities if you're killing animals and eating them? So we see that's the majority of society, just eating tons of dead bodies because they like the taste. And somehow this is fine qualities and good behavior, just if they have a lot of money. And law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's power. We see that that's like just a given. You know, you can't enter any sort of legal battle unless you have like a ton of money. So the people who don't have a lot of money or power, they don't actually get law and justice. Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction, and success in business will depend on deceit. We see that's an obvious one, superficial attraction. Okay, that person looks good, and then they get married. Success in business will depend on deceit. Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex, and a man will be known as a Brahmana just by his wearing a thread. A person's spiritual position will be ascertained. We see that one too. People, especially, I guess this is much bigger in India where people know what a Brahmin is, but they'll have a thread on. We'll see sometimes at colleges or people visit and they'll say, oh, I am Brahmana. I was born in a family that's called Brahmana family, and I put a rope on me, I am Brahmana. But we know a Brahmana, one of the symptoms of a Brahmana that we hear often is cleanliness. They'll say, I am Brahmana, but I can't take that book from you because I didn't take bath today. So how are they don't even take a bath, but they have a string, so they're considered Brahmana. Or they say, I can't take the book from you because I ate non-veg today. A Brahmana is one who knows Brahmin, so they don't want to have suffering happen to other living entities, so you can't eat non-veg and be Brahmana. Brahmana takes prasadam. A person's spiritual position will be ascertained merely according to external symbols, and on that same basis, people will change from one spiritual order to the next. A person's propriety will be seriously questioned if he does not earn a good living, and one who is very clever at juggling words will be considered a learned scholar. That's obvious in a lot of debates we see with devotees and the atheists. Atheists usually just use some sort of word game. Anyway, a person will be judged unholy if he does not have money, and hypocrisy will be accepted as virtue. Marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement, and a person will think he is fit to appear in public if he has merely taken a bath. It's just a comment, or not, we see often. We meet many people, especially at the Indian store, when we try to give out Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they say, I can't touch it, I didn't take bath. So, and then we see, so marriage, real marriage according to Vedic culture, there's the whole fire yagya, and it's a permanent thing. It's for life. Divorce wasn't even a thing in India, but now I'm sure it is now. But we see here, marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement. So we see in Las Vegas, they go through a drive-through marriage, and they get the little certificate in just a few minutes, and then they get a divorce a few minutes later or a few weeks. So that's Kali Yuga. A sacred place will be taken to consist of no more than a reservoir of water located at a distance, and beauty will be thought to depend on one's hairstyle. So that's actually a good thing, because on book distribution, we can tell people, hey, I like the cool hairstyle. And that usually gets their attention, because that means beauty in Kali Yuga. But this point here about the sacred place will be taken to consist of no more than a reservoir of water located at a distance. There's a really nice verse by Prahlad Maharaj. Let's see. Does anyone know that one, about one who goes to a holy place just to take a bath? It's really nice, so I'll just pull it up here. And he considers his land of birth to be like worshipable. Yeah, do you have that verse?
Nate vidu swartikatim he Vishnu.
Oh, yeah, that's the best. It's what KB just said. I wish I could find it so I could say the whole thing, but it's really nice. Well, here we go. I think this is the one. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridatuke svadi kala tradishu boma iyadihi yatirta buddhi salile na karhichik janeshva bigyeshu saeva gokaraha. A human being who identifies this body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge, there is to be considered like an ass or a cow. So that is the human society in the age of Kali. That's why Prabhupada called it often a two-legged animal society, because we see people are following these principles. So then they're to be taken as an ass or a cow. You go to a holy place just to take a bath. So there's not very much intelligence in the age of Kali. And then also because of the age of Kali, there's this doubtfulness arising where the personality of Godhead is taken out of the picture. No one wants to mention God as the cause of anything. Unless something bad happens, then sometimes they'll say, okay, it was God's arrangement. But even now, we see that's not really there. They just say, this bad thing happened, we'll take a moment of silence. Instead of we'll pray or maybe think a little philosophically, speak about the supreme cause, you're not the body, these kind of things. They say, well, just be silent. So that's the age of Kali, which is provoking this doubtfulness in the bull. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu? We're done, Prabhu.
I was wondering on the last sentence, the word inexplicable, if we could look into that and see what the definition is, and maybe
the whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the diluting energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. I took that to mean it's a lot. It's like you can't even count the amount of these bad qualities and how much it's being magnified in the age of Kali. But I'll look up the definition. Inexplicable. Unable to be explained or accounted for. It's just vast. The polluted atmosphere of the age of Kali. It's being magnified to an insane degree by the material energy. So that's the age of Kali. It's pretty much crazy. And we saw in the Lilamrita yesterday morning, Prabhupada was saying it's not pleasurable to work with a crazy man. So in the age of Kali, everything's crazy. We might also be a little bit crazy in a clinical sense, or according to the scriptures, there may be some craziness there. So it might be difficult sometimes even just to work together with devotees. But like Prabhupada said, he said, it's not pleasurable to work with a crazy man. We see it's the age of Kali. So the whole world's pretty much crazy. So to count ourselves totally out of that might be a little bit puffed up or a little bit off. So he said to work with a crazy man is not pleasurable, but what is pleasurable is seeing so many devotees being made. So you can know, okay, maybe I'm a little crazy, so it's like difficult to do like simple tasks sometimes, or maybe this person seems a little crazy, so it's difficult to work together with them or whatever. But that's okay, because we can be assured if we just tolerate that, okay, sure, working with a crazy person, it's not pleasurable. But if we actually work together nicely, then we know we can please Prabhupada by seeing, and we can also be pleased by seeing so many devotees being made. So we can tolerate our own craziness. And if we think others might be a little bit crazy sometimes, we can tolerate that too, work together nicely. And then we can please Srila Prabhupada by having so many devotees being made here in this Rupanuga Vedic College Dham. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.